All right, what is going on? It's Mike, and with me, I have my good friend Grant Inaba, who I've known for about 14 years, I want to say.
Wow.
Um, we used to do this thing during COVID. We started it, and it was like I get dressed up for this. It's Instagram Live. We see these live episodes weekly. It's like every Tuesday, I think, right?
Yeah.
And it's so awesome. But I no, we do this podcast now, and it goes out to social media and want to share kind of ideas and things that we're seeing. We are talking about last week, what we're seeing in the market, how some markets seem to be busier than others, others are slow. Grant, you've grown so much in the last, 15, 16 years, 12 or 13, I think, since I've known you. Tell me about what's going on in your world, man. What are you seeing out there? And, you have a team of agents now. So tell me about that too.
Yeah, well, currently we actually left Compass after 6 years and 11 months. I figured on the seventh year, I wanted to be able to do something different. I learned everything I could at Compass. It was great. I came to the realization I could stay at Compass, be great for the rest of my life, but I have to be working for the rest of my life. And so I decided to switch to a cloud brokerage that has this concept of retirement that really, I don't think it's been fully fleshed out for everybody. Obviously, someone has to live to 100 years old or whatever, 80 years old in order to see the full retirement cycle. But I think I believe in it, and so we went ahead and switched last November. We've doubled in size since then. Working a lot in San Francisco, a lot of the higher price point properties, higher price point areas in the East Bay too as well. So it's really exciting. It's great to talk about the market with you because our team is everywhere at this moment right now, and so we can talk about any part of the market you want.
That's what I want to ask you. That was actually one of my next questions, dude. What markets are you in? Because I know when we worked together, we marketed very heavily Contra Costa, Alameda County. We did some San Francisco, even some Marin. I remember you had that client in Tiburon, I want to say, or was it Tiburon or Tiburon, right? Um,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, that was like 5 years ago, 4 years ago. I remember your oldest was maybe a year old at the time.
It was,
But
yeah.
yeah, so I guess in those markets, what are you covering? What markets, and how are the markets differing and what you're seeing between each one, or what are you hearing?
Well, the interesting thing is that San Francisco is just hot on fire right now. I think it's a lot of AI money
Mhm.
that's kind of flowing around.
Yeah.
My former broker owner, he posted a listing that I think it was listed at 8 million and sold for 15. I mean, that was like the highest above list I've ever seen in my life.
That's crazy. Where was it? Was it Pacific Heights or like Nob Hill or
Cow Hollow,
yeah,
basically.
Cal Hall? Yeah, wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And I mean, I've had this, light conversation with a lot of people about this listing, and the joke is always, as a real estate agent, how do you advise that client to, buy basically, $8 million above list,
Yeah.
And I think it was just a whale of a buyer, and it was good timing, and they really wanted that house, and so they bought it for that much.
That's so insane, man. Wow. So I don't know what to think about that because I remember I tried to fathom that and I'm like, I haven't had enough coffee and being a dad with two toddlers, I'm like, where do I can't.
The unicorn. I mean, it's an absolute unicorn. It's a unicorn of a buyer, it's a unicorn of a house, and a unicorn of a city.
And they don't need financing 99% of the time is what we're finding. So they don't need me, which is fine. I'll go cry in a corner. But
Everyone's a unicorn.
no, but it's funny because I hear this though. I mean, TICs, right? We started taking off with TICs in Los Angeles because TICs became something in Los Angeles. The permitting, I actually taught a class on this in Arcadia last week,
Yeah.
because we're starting to see that in, that San Gabriel Valley as well. So I flew down there. I was talking to them and have a whole presentation on how they're now really popular. Condos also very popular again. 5, 6 years ago, you and I were talking about the deconstruction, I guess I was gonna say decomposition, but deconstruction of the condo market in San Francisco, right? And like it was just because all these things, some people wanted more space, you're doing this, you're doing that. But now we have NVIDIA, these AI, Gemini, these things coming in where all this tech money is coming, people are coming in to buy TICs cash. We wrote an offer on a property, 10-day close and it was a TIC. We had them fully underwritten. It was a very easy a TIC agreement that we were going to work through in underwriting. And someone again spent it was listed for like a mil. Someone bought it for 2.5
Hmm.
and cash.
Yeah, I
So
see.
it's a
Wow.
lot of cash you're seeing out there, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no longer about money because everyone has it. I
Hmm.
think now it's about convenience. The East Cut, basically towards the Embarcadero is very hot on fire for us. And you're looking at $2 million condos with $2,000 a month HOAs. We see these like 25 to 35-year-old young engineers, lawyers that are buying these properties and don't even care about either of these issues. Not only HOA but also price. They just come right in and they purchase it for the convenience because they're
It's
right in the
huge.
middle of the city. Able to get to the freeways, to get to
Yeah,
Silicon Valley,
yeah,
able to travel up and down Market Street to hit any of their partners and vendors they need to and meet up
yeah.
for work. Usually, single men and women, and you're looking at just a regular old, nice place that's got all the luxuries you need around you, entertainment, work, everything.
I used to live right there. I know it real well. I used to live south of Market, walking
Yeah.
distance to Pac Bell. I could call it AT&T. I can't call it Oracle. I'm just too old school. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I used to go to 40 Giants games a season. That was great. It was a great place to be. You just kind of walk there. I noticed even, I don't know if you looked, but I'm a baseball geek still. I'm always gonna be a Giants fan. I have seats from Candlestick Park in my garage, but
Yeah.
Giants tickets even are so expensive now in comparison to other ballparks because
Nobody cares.
the slow folks there like entertainment value, right? Well, let's go to StubHub, and Giants could
Yeah.
be having a horrible season, and it could be really a no-name team playing them, right? And
Yeah.
they could go in there, and like the tickets for you know the bleachers are like $300. It's just like
Yeah.
wow. And the bleachers where I used to go anyway, Candlelight, because that's where all the candlestick people end up going, because it was kind of, friends and family at that point. But that's crazy. So I guess what markets, I guess, are you really seeing a lot of action? I know you're seeing a lot of San Francisco, but are you still seeing a lot in Alameda, Contra Costa County as well, or what are you seeing out there?
Well, when we're talking about the condo market, the condo market in the East Bay is really suffering.
Hmm.
And a big reason why is because you're comparing apples to oranges. In San Francisco, there's these luxury properties. It's not because they're luxury per se, but it is because the development has got everything organized when you're talking about paperwork, management, services, amenities, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera. A lot of these condo developments in Oakland, they've been, kind of fudging the paperwork on the financials. And,
Mm,
there's a lot of these special assessments that are coming down the pipe and a lot of these just unaffordable HOA fees that you're really not getting anything. And there's no guarantee that these fees aren't going to change, that you're not going to be buying a lemon that needs a whole lot of work in the future.
yeah.
And so the condo market in the East Bay is really suffering, in my opinion. Nobody wants them. And that harkens back to, San Francisco, like maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
No, those were the issues in San Francisco 5 years ago, but
I
they're
remember
not
that. Yeah.
anymore because everyone's got money. They don't care.
Yeah.
Well, in Oakland, still people are still concerned about the money and they're still concerned about what they're getting and the value and all those other things.
Has the city changed so much, like in your opinion, San Francisco? Because I mean, I left my heart in San Francisco, like the Jimmy Buffett song, right? I mean, that's the town I grew up in, third generation, somewhere I'll always love, as you know. But has it changed a lot, do you think, since I guess 2020 to 2022, 23, also is societal norms? Because there's a lot of homeless concerns and things like that through the area. Have those cleaned up? Because I remember you hear things that were going on in Tenderloin, right? And one of the best honest breakfast spots, Dottie's Cafe in the Tenderloin, is literally the best breakfast place in San Francisco. That or Pork Store and Hate. But are you seeing a lot of change in that? Is it getting cleaned up out there? Are you seeing, because I'm curious on that too. I mean, because that's a big concern for a lot of folks living in the city. You're like, man, I want more space. I can move out here for $2 million. I could buy a property in Walnut Creek or Concord, Pleasant Hill, Heluma, right? I mean, yeah, commute and work from home. But now it sounds like all these folks are coming back here. It must have cleaned up a little bit, as far as the streets and the city goes as a whole, right?
In San Francisco, I believe it has. I
Yeah,
believe that Daniel Lurie is doing a pretty good job. He's very innovative. He's throwing a lot of stuff against the wall, seeing
yeah,
what works. He's also getting in front of the public and listening to them and trying to react.
yeah,
I think a lot of people are also of the opinion that he's just a really good PR guy. That he's really just a good social media, handle.
yeah,
But I think that he's actually, doing some change. And I
yeah.
think it's reflected in the day that, you walk around, you're not seeing, as many homeless, you're not seeing as many problems on the street. Whether or not that's actually true or not, I don't know. But when you look at Oakland, you can definitely see it very clearly. There's whole blocks that you can't even drive down because it's been a takeover.
Mhm.
The homeless population has been completely taken over,
Mhm.
certain parts of the city.
And it's unfortunate because that's ultimately what we want, right? I mean, it doesn't matter on, your political agendas. Like, we just want people to be safe. We want people to be cool. We want help to be there for those that need it. But yeah, I'm curious on Dan Delory just because I've heard a lot of great things. I knew he took office last year. And like, it's funny because I mean, if I look it up, it says he has a 74% approval rating. And if San Francisco is driving the way it is, that's huge. I mean, that's huge. This guy's doing all right. And it's kind of cool to hear because again, you want the city to be a good, safe place. You want to enjoy it. It's such a beautiful city, will always a remarkably beautiful city, right? And so, I mean, that's cool. And it's unfortunate to hear about Oakland too, because I hear Oakland, we've had a lot of buyers that want to come back to refinance, when rates dip and we watch the dip, they go high, then they dip, and they kind of do the wave thing, right? And it's like surfing, if you recall, like Salt Creek. You have a great swell come in, breaks for a couple of minutes, great swell come in, and you got to be ready for it. And some of these people, they just lost equity because it seems like some parts of Oakland are actually losing value. Are you still seeing that out in the market as well in Oakland, from what you could tell?
In the lower ends, I'm seeing properties listed at 299, which I've never seen before. It used
Really?
to be back in the heydays that you couldn't find a property that was listed below 599, and
Yeah.
even that property had problems.
Wow.
So in the, East Oakland parts, you're seeing these very, very small houses that need a lot of work that are
Mm,
pretty much destitute, probably have
mm,
a probate or some kind of foreclosure problem attached to them,
yeah.
but they're listing for 299. I mean,
Wow.
that's unheard of before.
Wow.
Um, the higher ends, they're just on fire, just like San Francisco is. I
Yeah, so
think.
like Berkeley Hills, Piedmont, right? Okay. Yeah. All right. So from your seat, what are buyers saying right now, though? I guess, because there's a broad spectrum, and I think it sounds like, right? But like, is it rates of why people are concerned, or is there concern? It sounds like it's hot regardless. I mean, maybe the first time home buyers, is it, are you getting any job uncertainty? Because I know some folks are concerned about what's happening with Amazon in the Bay Area and Meta. Are you seeing anything hold people back other than those that work in tech or AI?
Well, one of my teammates, talking about tech and employment, you heard about the Oracle layoffs.
Yeah.
One of my teammates, he had an Oracle client. He's an engineer, young kid. He was trying to buy his first place for his family. It was a condo in Moraga, and he lost his job, and so they had to cancel the escrow.
Hmm.
But they actually found a new job, and now he's back in the market. So had
Wow.
they been able to hold that escrow for, I think a month and a half, 2 months, then I think they could have actually closed it.
Yeah.
But, obviously you can't guarantee any of those things are going to happen. You don't have a crystal ball.
100%.
What
Yeah.
I see happening relative to that story is I think that there's a huge amount of corporate layoffs in AI, at the big, big tech company level. But I think the startups, who are developing new AI, are basically just sweeping up that workload
Wow.
and hiring all those engineers that got laid off. And I think that, that's going to drive development. As we know, AI has got a huge amount of legs in order to, just do more for our society in every single, facet of the world.
100%.
I think that, is a big knee-jerk reaction on the corporate levels part, and I think in 2 years from now, they're just gonna realize they laid off too many people and they're just gonna start rehiring again.
Yeah.
It's gonna turn into a pendulum back and forth and back and
It's
forth.
always a pendulum and a knee jerk, it seems, no matter what you're looking at. I mean, our rates, market, right? I mean, home prices did dip a little bit, as you had said, in some areas, but I mean, they tend to recover in time. I do
Yeah.
remember though, Oakland houses, off Hagenberger, East Oakland, those areas, $100,000, 125K.
Oh, that
s-
was
s-
like,
16, 17 years ago. Right.
yeah,
So, I mean,
2015,
it
really.
just ages me. I mean, I've been in this industry too long. But, um, yeah, I guess it's interesting to hear though. I mean, are you running into issues with insurance? I know that's a big hot topic right now, right? I mean, we're hearing about, insurance plans, insurance providers unable to secure insurance. And we're seeing more properties with like knob and tube electrical, which is old electrical. If you're watching it, what's knob and tube? It's an old system. They're hard to insure. But now we're seeing California Fair Plan, which was this idea to create an insurance policy as a last resort. Now, I think a lot of areas, because I know Pelham with the fires, Sonoma County, Napa, you tend to see more of that than you have ever before, right? So are you seeing a lot of that in your markets as well? Kind of fair plan or difficult to insure, more expensive policies and things for your buyers? And is there any pushback with that, or are the concerns with that?
We see that in the fire risk areas,
Yeah,
certainly for sure. But those fire risk areas, those are $1 million minimum price point, properties. Anybody that's going to go in and buy these properties, I think they can afford it anyway. So
right,
they're not as, concerned. Keep in mind also these houses they're not built for suburban families. These are houses hanging off the side of the hill, with trees all around them, the big fire risk, tiny two-lane roads that, get you to the city, and they're just very impractical. They're
right.
they're made for rich single bachelors, rich dual income couples,
Yeah,
and those people are much more financially, set where they don't really have to worry as much about, maybe the extra cost of insurance.
right.
That's my,
I dig it. I agree with you 100%. I'm starting to see that as well. And it's like, hey guys, you understand this is what you're insuring, or this is what you're buying. We had a property up in Tahoe, and Truckee is where it was. And that insurance policy was probably about 9,000 a year,
yeah.
but it's
Mhm.
up there, right? So yeah, but it's an investment. They bought it, they essentially have it be a short-term rental property, and it's doing quite well. I mean, its overall revenue is incredibly strong, and so they're doing quite well with it. But they knew that was one of the costs of acquiring such a property. I mean, knowing where you're buying, right?
Yeah.
I guess that would bring kind of the next question is like, what are you seeing that's really good? Or that maybe something home buyers are missing or sellers are missing in this market? I mean, are there any opportunities, for them that didn't exist a couple years ago? And like what you and I worked so closely together, right, for like 5 or 6 years and the 2020 market, stuff like that. So I guess what are you seeing out there that may be opportunistic for folks?
Well, I think you would say it's TICs, right? I don't have any experience with TICs, to tell you the truth. But I think, when you're talking about entry level properties, it's not condos, especially in the East Bay,
100%.
probably in San Francisco too as well, because, they're just so unaffordable.
Yeah.
When we talked about condos being great starter homes, with these rising HOAs and these special assessments and, damaging their DTI in order to purchase, I don't feel very comfortable recommending this as good starter homes.
Agree.
Um, I say, go for the smallest, cheapest house you can afford and look at the cities that nobody else is looking at. Look at places like Antioch, Suisun City. That's a
Mm,
huge, you
yeah.
know, Vacaville is becoming popular these days. It's pretty far out there, but it's not Sacramento. Um,
100%.
Places like Merced are just exploding these days.
Really?
Yeah,
I did
man,
not know that.
yeah. I just read an article that I think the state is putting a cap on development there because it's going so fast.
I
Um,
had no idea. That's pretty cool though. That's really
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, back during what is it, the pandemic days, and prior to that, we would see people commuting as far out as Visalia into the city in order to do these blue collar jobs, and the Merced, Stockton and San Joaquin County, line is the line of affordability,
Mhm.
the line between unaffordability and affordability. So naturally, people are going out in those directions.
That's the biggest concern in the state is like, we love California. There's plenty of land here. How can you build on it? Right. And like, where are you going to find a place where folks can afford, live comfortably, start a family if they want to do it? Right. Like these sorts of things. I mean, now knowing that, looking back in hindsight where we live now, I'm like, man, I don't know. I mean, if I would want to buy what we have for what it would go for today because the appreciation is so huge, because, these areas have grown so exponentially after the, pandemic. People are able to purchase a home, work from home, create another maybe smaller office, right? Close to their home even. And it's just so funny how really that occurred. And you're seeing people even go to the state. Now, some people are calling, or some companies, should I say, are calling their employers back or employees back to work a couple days a week, right? I know Microsoft, Google, a few others. It's interesting to see. So now they have to be somewhat closer to work, and if it's tech, then you're going to see these tech folks, like you're saying, buying in the city. And I still kick myself, man. I know I've told this story, and I think when we did our thing on Instagram Live, I probably shared it 100 times over. But I really do kick myself. I could have bought a townhouse right by Alamo Square, like right by Alamo Square in 2007 for 600K. I hate myself for that.
I bought
You
a
know,
house in Oakland for $80,000, and there was one on every block, and that's where I kicked myself.
oh, dude, yeah, I go to 2010 Sonoma State and Roanoke Park because I ended up moving to Sonoma County and Petaluma, right? As you know, you've been to my house a few times. But over there, those Townhomes by Sonoma State were 100K a pop, and they're renting for 2,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did I buy more of those then? And I think we all had the big thing back then. I think about this a lot is fear. Fear can be crippling sometimes. And I think in this market, some buyers, maybe even some sellers, are a little fearful of what's going on and not really sure if they should take that step of faith. And it's a hard one. 100%, right? Because you didn't know if you're going to win. We just talked about folks that bought in Oakland that may have had some loss in value, in the last year or two. It does recover, like these markets you and I are talking about. I mean, even 80K is worth 300, maybe 400K. It's the markets in Oakland, right? In Vallejo, we saw that $100,000 properties now going for 400K at a minimum. So I think it's just like taking that step of faith, I think is a big one. And I think it's just, sharing those stories of my, hey, I've been doing this for way too long. This is what I saw then, right? You should do it now, if you can, right? But that's the biggest thing is be comfortable with what you're doing. But that's interesting to hear that Merced's blowing up. Heard about Suisun. We actually just closed a VA buyer in Suisun and record time at that. But it's funny because Suisun is right there, right? It's right by Travis. There is a local economy there. So it tends to be somewhat strong. People forget about that. The markets
Yeah.
that do the best in markets like these are the ones that are closest to an economy of some sort. They're safe neighborhoods. They tend to do the best. And I think, yeah, appreciation in the city. I keep looking at articles through the Chronicle. Even I saw it in the Times, I think, because we subscribe to that. Even that's noting how San Francisco is still on fire. And but you're right, you did touch on TICs. TIC properties are insanely popular all of a sudden in Los Angeles, especially after Palisades. These folks are buying TIC properties. And the cool thing about them is if you're unfamiliar with condo law, and Grant, you know this better than anybody because you like to geek out, look at the stuff with me. But SB 326, right, changed a lot of what we're seeing in condos. And so you don't have all the autonomy that you would have with a larger HOA that you'd have for the smaller TIC agreement, right? The TICA allows so much more, yes, higher interest rates, and yes, there's less lender availability for them. We happen to be one, but there's still, the opportunity to buy a property. And believe it or not, you're going to buy a TIC 9 out of 10 times, 20% less than what you would pay for a condo without all the haywire craziness of a larger HOA and then your assessments, your litigation that may occur, the SB 326, review or that being delayed, for having that work done. That's what's going to hinder your ability on a condo versus a TIC, which I think is opportunistic for sure. The only problem with that is you have to put usually at least 10 to 15% down. You can't get away with 3 or 5% down. So a little bit more of a down payment, but affordability is definitely there for folks. And the HOA is like, I mean, it's a couple $100 if there is one, right? With the TIC agreement, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, man. So I guess I want to ask you, good agent real estate. I remember that handle for years now. I always thought it was cool when you and I first connected talking about Bitcoin, and I want to say it's 2015, maybe. I mean, you may remember the night, so maybe it's been 11 years. But anyhow, I guess what tell me about good agent real estate. Like, what are you guys doing? You're growing. I know you've got a great team. Some of my favorite agents work with you. So I guess what's the MO there? Kind of what's the mantra? What's the mission there? What are you doing with your agents that sets you apart, I guess?
With the team is still pretty small. Obviously we're trying to scale and trying to scale fast, but get in while you can.
Yeah,
When you get in early with us, the team is very small, then you're able to, I think, get in at the ground level,
yeah,
and that's very, very important. A lot of agents are thinking about establishment, what's going to be able to support me the best, what's
yeah,
going to be able to, help my business grow. Well, they don't want to go with the small person because the small person is perceived to not have support. We're looking for people that grind and that can be independent, but need guidance, and that's where we can really help each other out.
yeah,
Like years of experience where, I can kind of point them in the right direction, be
yeah,
strategic. Strategy is very, very important in this business. Business strategy is what I'm talking about. Entrepreneurial strategy. A lot of people are just, kind of out there floating and not really doing anything very smart with their business.
yeah,
We're looking for people that are very smart with their business, that really have goals and really want to do something. If that's the case, then we can help you out with that. And the reason why is because we're small enough, we've got the resources and the synergy in order to do that.
yeah,
Once we get large, then it's really all about becoming a behemoth and just moving like a big giant snowball and taking everything in its path. And
yeah,
I think we will get there very eventually. But which is better? While you're small and strategic, then that's great. But when you're big and establishment, then you draw those different, people that are looking for establishment too as well.
Love it. And I love you too, man, how you're doing that. I love the mindset that you have. I feel like our similarities in mindsets always been very similar to one another. And that thought is just what can you do to help people grow and work from a boutique type level where you don't need
Yeah.
to be the biggest. You don't have to, you just have to be the best at what you do. And by doing so, you're really investing in people. Think about, we have kids. We
Mhm.
were talking about your son earlier, and I have a 3-year-old and 2-year-old, and the kids I think that do best is where the classes aren't compacted and the teacher could spend more time investing with actual students themselves. So when you
Yeah.
have that, you have the ability to have someone like Grant Inaba, and I just love always picking your brain, talking about what we're seeing. Dude, what are you seeing? What are you seeing? Right? It's just like it's been great over all these years because it's like, yes, you're a friend to think of you as a brother, and a lot of times I feel like there's kind of a mentoring relationship back and forth of talking about what could we do and what are you doing and what are you seeing and things like that. So eh, Grant, hats off to you, man. If you're looking, you're listening to this, definitely, I'm gonna leave Grant's information in the caption here. Connect with him. You will be just blessed by talking to the guy. That said, I want to ask you, um, I guess the final question of sorts is where are you located? You're in the Bay Area, I know, but where are you taking agents? Is it just kind of the 9 Bay Area counties? I know, one of my favorite agents that worked with you was in down south. You stationed there because he's in the Navy and he's an agent that does a ton of business. But like, where are your markets for the folks that you're looking to bring onto your team?
Yeah, so we've got strong lead generation and market presence in San Francisco, the North Bay, the East Bay especially, and that's where I live.
Mhm.
East County, Solano County. We haven't really moved down past Fremont. We're not really in the South Bay at all. We're kind of in the peninsula only by de facto of being in San Francisco.
Right.
But those are our major areas. It was basically the immediate San Francisco East Bay areas.
Got it. Got it. Makes sense. I mean, and yeah, I mean, it's good to hear in North Bay. So you're in a mild neck of the woods, my hometown, Marin and Sonoma still. Love it.
Yeah, I'm making an offer in Nevada right now.
Are you really? Good for you, man. I could close in 12 days if you need me. But but our first time hanging out, I remember we got a pint at McNear's and you're showing the property in Pelima.
Yeah,
This is back in like Climb Real Estate days, I want to say, right? Like
that's it.
this is
Yeah.
way back when, and it was cool. And then we started hanging out thereafter a lot, and just appreciate you, man. So I appreciate you, and of course the time. That's all we have. Anything else before we cut out? Any last points? Anything for agents or buyers, sellers out in the marketplace?
It's always, my advice is always buy cheap, don't buy expensive, buy what you can afford and buy quickly.
Like it, like it
Yeah.
a lot, man. Good, love it. All right, man. Well, I appreciate it. Let me see.